So, is sleep paralysis the same thing as lucid dreaming? No, but there is a relationship here, are some links. So let's unpack. What is sleep paralysis? What causes sleep paralysis? And what can we do about sleep paralysis? And of course, if you'd like to know what lucid dreaming is, have a look for my What is Lucid Dreaming video. As with all things, darlings, the answer here will have many layers, dimensions, many ways of approaching. We'll look at a number of ideas here and decide what resonates for you. So let's start with a more medical, sciencey, one-dimensional kind of way of looking. According to Western medicine, sleep paralysis is kind of like a malfunctioning of the sleeping cycle, where it's important that we go into paralysis while we're asleep. Otherwise, we do things like sleepwalking, talking in our sleep, etc., etc. Because when we are dreaming, we're pretty active and it's very real what's happening to us. And so the body wants to move. And so going into a state of paralysis is really important. So normally we go into this state of sleep paralysis once we're already unconscious. But if we wake up while we're in the sleep paralysis space, then we're kind of conscious and awake, but still hallucinating and dreaming, but we're aware that we're in our rooms. So it can be absolutely terrifying to wake up in your room and you can't move. And this is often accompanied by visions or hallucinations or waking dreams of demonic figures, dark figures, shadow figures, all kinds of dark, creepy things coming into your room, and you can't move, and it's terrifying. So that's the sort of malfunctioning brain or sleep pattern viewpoint. But of course, we can pry this open and look a little bit more spiritually. Let's say you're quite psychically open, you're quite spiritually sensitive, and you enter into a new space. Say you're not sleeping in your normal bed space. Maybe you're sleeping over at someone's house, or maybe you're traveling into a different country and you've entered into a new space and there's just all kinds of energies about that you're not quite used to. And perhaps you have some spiritual power, and maybe those spirits are also just really curious about you. And they're just coming to have a little check-see. Hello, what's up? And so they might wake you and cause that kind of malfunctioning of the sleeping cycle. And they could be dark entities, but really, what is a dark entity? 50% of us is dark. And they could also just be nature spirits, spirits of place. But sure, maybe you're sleeping over at someone's house and someone in the house is going through a really bad time. Say they have holes in their auras and some negative dark entities have attached to those auras, and then suddenly you're sleeping in the house and they're like, ooh, someone who can see us. And so they come and check you out. Maybe they wake you and maybe they disturb you. And you get to be the one who decides what exactly is going on. Check in, ask. Check in with your intuition, right? Though I would recommend that you choose a way of framing this that makes you feel powerful. So I do recall one time going to sleep over somewhere and there was someone in the house who was going through a really dark time, and I had already perceived that there was something attached to this person, and I just honestly forgot to do my normal invocation of like protection over sleep. And that night I got woken up 8 times, and there was like this glowing-eyed cat demon and this like dark, shadowy figure, and they kept waking me up, and so I kept blasting them with light and waking up, and then the next day I did ritual around that house, and I just set up the energy in such a way that certain entities could not go past the front door. And it didn't happen again. And I was still sleeping with that same person in the house. Now, that's one way to view. But At the time, I didn't know about this other alternative viewpoint, which I think is really interesting and I want to share with you. And I learned from Nathan Rotz, who I will tag here, amazing dream work, lucid dreamer, astral projection teacher. And this is what he says about it, or at least my understanding of what he says about it. And so he talks about sleep paralysis being a blessing because it's kind of a prerequisite for astral projection. So let's talk for a moment about the connection between astral projection and lucid dreaming, because essentially we are astral projecting when we are dreaming. We're just not necessarily conscious of the moment of leaving our bodies. And when we become lucid in our dreams, we become lucid of the fact that we're not in our bodies, that we're in a dream space, which essentially is an astral realm space. We could be visiting any of the realms, right? It's a very multi-dimensional kind of space, many parts of that realm, right? And to astral project out of the body is to consciously leave the body without falling asleep. And so sleep paralysis, if we wake up in that paralysis, and of course the body needs to go into that paralysis state in order for us to project out safely. And he talks about these dark, fearful images that we see or view in those spaces as like these guardians of the gates of the astral realm. Because in the astral realm, things are going to manifest almost immediately, right? And if we have a dark thought, a demon will show up, right? And if we don't know how to deal with that, how to face fears, how to essentially face our own projections, our own mental projections, then we're not going to be safe in those realms. And so facing that fear and pushing through the eye of the needle is essentially a prerequisite and a necessity in order for us to project consciously out of our bodies and to handle that kind of manifestation space where it's like immediate manifestation. And I think this is such an interesting viewpoint, because when you see sleep paralysis as a blessing and you catch yourself in sleep paralysis, which would normally be a terrifying experience, and you catch yourself and you go, oh, okay, you know what, let's face this is me, right? And the whole universe is you. I'm you, you're me, we're one soul experiencing itself. And so while demons and dark energies and entities are very, very real, it's also you, right? It's also a mental projection, because it's all the same thing. And so if you can face that, dissolve that, move through that eye of the needle, you can astral project, which is really, really interesting. So what do you think? Have you had a sleep paralysis experience before? Was it terrifying? I mean, for me, it was pretty terrifying, but I was able to face that and dissolve that. And I'm not sure if I actually left my body that time or if I physically got up and woke myself up. Sometimes it's hard to tell. Which viewpoint resonates for you? Is it one or the other, or my favorite? All of the above. And of course, so what is the best thing to do in that moment of fearful sleep paralysis, whether you want to wake up or turn it into an astral projection experience? And I would say, remember your power. Remember your light, dissolve the fear. I like to shoot light from my heart space or my third eye. I think heart space is actually more powerful for me. But third eye works just as well. And just imagine that beautiful light just dissolving any of the fear, and just feel that power coming from you. You are the source. Give it a try. Let me know what happens.